Today is Monday, August 5th, 2024. This is episode 140 of the Tech Jawn from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka just the two of us. Again, as you can tell, Steph is not in, so it's just me and Rob filling in for this week.
Yeah, she got a project going on this week. I think she's on vacation next week. But we gonna go ahead and hold it down. But man, so it's been a minute. It feels like it's been forever. Because we didn't do a live show last week. But check this out. The after party is like the best performing show that we've put up in like the last 3 or 4 months. It's
Yeah,
crushing
well,
it.
people,
Yeah.
people, uh, people tend to tune in to things that they think they're missing, which they don't have to miss if they were a member of our Patreon. But that's just me talking.
Yeah. So anyway, man, there is a fair amount of tech to catch up on. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Before we do, though, I do want to remind folks that if you would like to support the Tech John, there's a couple ways you can do it. But the one we're going to talk about today is our Patreon. If you head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, you will find our site over there where we've got multiple tiers, any one of which get you access to our live stream, which we're doing right now, and our after party, which we'll do a few minutes after the show ends. And every bit you do goes a long way to help the show. So once again, if you're interested in supporting the show via Patreon, becoming a patron, head over to thetechjohn.com. That's the techjawn.com/Patreon. And as I said, there's multiple tiers over there you can sign up to. So with that being said, we're going to kick things off, Terrance, with getting back to a story from back in March. You remember back when Don Lemon, there was news about Don Lemon. He was creating a new online show. This is probably, I don't know, maybe not quite a year after he left CNN. And his first interview was Elon Musk. In fact, he actually had a deal uh, with 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 X, and the interview didn't go the way that I think Elon Musk thought it was going to go. So at the end of the interview, he basically sends a text message to Don Lemon's manager, says that the deal is canceled.
Hmm.
And we kind of figured this was going to happen, but Don Lemon has now sued Elon Musk and X for fraud, negligent misrepresentation, and breach of contract. And as I said, this comes after March when he did one episode and then Elon Musk said contract canceled. That was basically the information that he got. So I kind of saw this coming. Did you see this coming?
That everything was going to fall apart? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know why Don Lemon didn't see that and do two things. Two, play the game, because I don't know if Don Lemon thought he was above reproach from Elon Musk just because Elon Musk brought him on to be like the something new, something different at X, because right now it's Twitter, so it's just all consumer generated content. This, I think, was going to be the first type of content created by Twitter that wasn't consumer generated content. They were going to actually have a show.
Mm-hmm.
First thing of its kind. I won't say unheard of, but you don't hear Facebook has a show. Instagram doesn't have a show. All the other social media platforms don't have a show, with the exception of what this was going to be with Don Lemon, right? Content generated by a social media platform. Don should have known that, and either A, should have played the game and like the first day of work, do that little code switch thing that we do. Hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the future of the platform and the future of the show. Did a little softball interview with Elon Musk, get that cachet, and then act out. what Don Lemon do? I ain't gonna say he act out. That's not because he held Elon Musk's feet to the fire and asked him some challenging questions, some poignant questions, some trending stuff that was going on at the time, right? Which you would think a journalist would do. That's their job, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking Don Lemon for doing it. What I'm saying is, you know what time it is with Elon Musk, so you got to play the game, or you got to decide whether you're going to play the game as well. And it sounded like Don Lemon wanted to um, played a game by being on X, but didn't I don't know if he considered how Elon Musk would respond to his questions when historically speaking, Elon Musk hasn't responded very well to directed hold your feet to the fire type questions. So I don't know
Hmm.
why Don Lemon thought that was going to be any different. Come to find out he's not. The question is, does Don Lemon's suit have any sort of legs? The question is, can Elon Musk cancel the contract? If Elon Musk can cancel the contract, I don't know how much leverage Don Lemon has by bringing up this lawsuit outside of just saying, "Hey, he needs to, reimburse me for out of pocket expenses to, bring this thing to fruition," which Don Lemon claims in the suit, according to this story, that he has incurred hundreds of thousands in dollars in expenses in preparing for the show. If he can get that, then he might go after that. But suing Elon Musk for breach of contract, I mean, what would you expect?
Yeah.
Sunburns,
So
man.
here's my question, and we talked about this when this whole thing went down back in March. Is Don Lemon surprised at what happened, or
Right.
did Don Lemon kind of know, wink, wink, this is very possible that this could happen? But at anything, that first video at least is going to go super viral, and
Hmm.
that's what I'll use to get myself on. So I honestly can tell
Get
you.
yourself on. So let me ask you, get yourself on. Do you mean get yourself on by making a good first impression, or this is my opportunity to tell Elon how it is?
I think this is when I say get on, I mean get on with an audience who's going to go and follow him and do what he does. So, uh, March, we're in August now. So what is that? April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months out, he has 220,000 subscribers.
Hmm.
If there was no deal with Elon Musk, would he have 220,000 subscribers? I'm looking at his videos. When you look at his live streams, his lives are getting, and I'm just starting right at the top here. You know, 5.7 thousand, 47,000, 40,000, 40,000, 88,000, 147,000, 85,000.
And
His
the quotes here and the numbers you're quoting is from Don Lemon's YouTube.
This is
What is
from
that
Don
from?
Lemon's YouTube. So his
So you're
lives are regularly getting upwards of 100,000.
so you're saying his thought process, quote unquote, was to use Elon Musk to prop up himself because he kind of knew the Twitter thing, if it worked initially, was eventually going to fizzle out, or it wasn't going to work at all, and he was going to be like, "Gotcha! Now come over to my YouTube." Is that what you're saying?
So I don't know if it was even gotcha, because I did watch that interview, and although I wouldn't call myself a Don Lemon fan, I've seen enough of him on CNN and seen enough interviews that he does. That interview was a Don Lemon interview. It was, he wasn't like doing anything extra. He wasn't doing anything less. That is how he interviews.
Hmm.
So that was pretty consistent. I'm
Hmm.
just wondering, Don Lemon is not new to this game. He's been doing this for a long time. He has to know. He does not. He does not shock me as somebody who just got fleeced all of a sudden. It seems to me like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to go do my job, and I want to do it
Hmm.
first with Elon. And if it
Hmm.
works, it'll be great because I'm doing it on X and I've got the blessing of Elon. But if it doesn't work and this dude decides to do what he does, it'll still be all right because I did it and I got, a million views on the
So your
first video.
eyeballs,
So now
right?
that's going to help me just jumpstart my own channel. It's,
Hmm.
it's hard to define a knot, but would Don Lemon, would his channel have 220,000
Hmm. Hmm.
subscribers at this point, 5 months in, even though he is Don Lemon? If he would not have gone and did that first interview with Elon,
Right. Right.
that you can't even really say that the interview went epically bad. It was just not one that was, painting Elon Musk in a wonderful
Right.
light, and he didn't like it, and decided to take his toys and go home.
Right.
So
Um. So I want to believe that Don Lemon has enough juice to be able to himself put out some sort of press junket, for lack of a better term, social media wise. Same thing that some other political analysts that are no longer on TV have went to social media and use that as a press junket of sorts to kind of find out what the temperature is, to garner any sort of new attention, and then parlay that into a lot of numbers, not maybe not close to the numbers you read, but close numbers in order to say, all right, this is legit enough to where I can launch a show similar to like Roland Martin,
Hmm.
similar to some other people that are exclusively on YouTube, Twitch, whatever the case may be. I think he has enough juice to do it that way. I can definitely see how he was like, all right, let's be slick and try to and use, quote unquote, use Twitter to get all of those additional eyes without having to work that hard. I get it, but I guess the question is it worth was it worth it? Was it worth him dealing with all of this and then turn around and suing X just to say this was the plan all along to get my numbers up to launch my own show?
Oh, I don't think you'll ever hear him say that,
Right.
because that would probably not be great for this lawsuit that he is launching. I
Right.
just wonder in the back of his mind, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to do this. It could absolutely blow up. Because here's the thing that I remember about the initial deal. It was a heck of a deal that was very, very advantageous for Don Lemon,
Mhm.
because there were going to be some exclusive things that he would do just for X, but the Don Lemon show is not even exclusive to X. So if
Mhm.
there would have been no Twitter, and he still is Twitter, if there have been no X, and he still is on X right now, you can watch his videos on X. He just doesn't have a deal with them. That was always going to be the case. So it's like, okay, if I can get Elon as my first guest, and what else did it require that he do? He had to go to CES, and he had to basically talk to advertisers and say, hey, I'm Don Lemon and I'm going to be working with X. It's okay for you advertisers to come back here where you've left. That's the story that he's telling. I don't want to, I don't know that that's the truth, 100% of it, but I don't have any reason not to believe that. I guess this court case will kind of determine that. But as I said, the deal that Don Lemon had was very advantageous to him, because he could still go put the video on YouTube. He could still go put the video on Twitch. He could still go put the video on, now Spotify has video. So he's always been able to do that according to what the original plan was. It was just that in addition to that, he would do a few exclusive things just for X. And that was going to get him, I think it was a $1.5 million 1-year deal to kind of see how
Mhm.
it goes. So it's interesting. Like I said, I assumed that this was going to happen. I didn't see where Elon was going to say, "Oh yeah, just pay the dude his money and get him out of our hair." I never saw that coming. So from Don's standpoint, is like no news is or any news is good news in this case. The fact that we are now talking about it, I had not watched a Don Lemon video since the Elon Musk video, but this story popped up and I went back and said, oh, he interviewed this person, oh, he interviewed this person, oh wait, he's got some numbers on these things. So it is he has got a legitimate channel. It is not like he is only getting 40, 50 people watching the streams, and 200 or 300 looking at the videos. I mean, there are videos that may only have 6 or 7,000, but there are videos that have 6 or 700,000. So he's definitely doing the thing. It'll be interesting to see how this court case comes out.
Yeah. This last note says, to this day, defendants, I'm assuming that means Elon Musk and X, have not compensated Lemon pursuant. I think that's the important part. Pursuant to the exclusive partnership deal that the defendants induced Lemon to enter into, the lawsuit says. So I think that important word, pursuant, like, was Don Lemon promised that he was going to be reimbursed for the money ramping up to the exclusive deal or not? And if that was just like assumed don't work in court of law.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, like you mentioned, silver lining, he's got his own show, and I'm pretty sure those numbers are higher. I mean, it's a safe bet to say those numbers are higher as a result of this show that he did on X, as short lived as it was.
Absolutely. So Terrence, up next, you stuck a story in here about digital driver's license. I went through and read the article. It looks like California, who's actually had digital ID for a minute, they now are. It looks like they're really moving into this. But I like how you titled this. It's like digital driver's license. What's the point? Now, you and I haven't had any conversation about this, but I want to see if you're wondering the same thing that I'm wondering about, how these things are going to work. So why don't you tell us about what digital IDs are doing in California, and actually here in Ohio? They just announced them here in
Yeah,
Ohio as
sure.
well.
So this is on the back or shortly after Ohio announced that they would play nice with Apple Wallet specifically and allow people to add their Ohio driver's license to the Apple Wallet. This follows, I think, Florida, Georgia. We have it because I've got my Georgia driver's license in my Apple Wallet. Florida, it's like 5 or 6 states. So California would be the latest state. Like you mentioned, California does have some sort of digital ID, but they couldn't come to an agreement on what it's officially supposed to look like and officially what it does, and if it's different in different cities in California, whatever. So I think sounds like they like, well, forget it. Apple's already has some sort of standard as
Hmm.
far as digital wallets, digital IDs, digital driver's license. So let's just adopt theirs. So then California announces that they're going to allow Californians to put their driver's license in the Apple Wallet. Now, leading up to what Rob said, that's nice, but that only works if you can actually then turn around and utilize your digital ID in the Apple Wallet. I've had my Georgia driver's license in my Apple Wallet for about a year now. Have not used it once. And I've taken flights. I've been to different places. I've been to places where they need my ID, whether it be in buying tickets, whether it be in entering venues, whether it be just simply using my ID to verify who I am. I've been out of the country since then. I've been all over the place. Have not used my digital driver's license one time. So again, the reason why I say digital driver's license, what's the point? What's the point of me going through the effort of putting it into in my Apple Wallet if I can't use it anywhere? You've got to have the other end. I've got the front end. Now you have to have the back end. What I mean by that, the point of sale. If it's not an actual sale, I'm thinking like the structure, the infrastructure that allows me to issue or show my digital ID, and then the other side for somebody to quote unquote take my digital ID. And we ain't there yet. There's no venues, to my knowledge, that allows people to hold up their phone and verify their identity. TSA, you can do it, but it's not in Georgia, to my knowledge, because I actually went in my latest trip. I went to the airport and was like, yo, do y'all take my digital ID? TSA dude was like, nah, I need the physical copy. I was like, oh, all right. So all that to say, the technology is dope. The idea is dope. The thought process is dope. The execution is not where it needs to be, which is why only 5 states out of 50 have actually went through and moved forward with some sort of digital wallet thing. So is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, because it's like, um, Ohio just got it, so it's not it's I mean, it's brand spanking new here, so it's going to
Hmm.
probably take a minute before you can actually start doing anything with it. And for me, if it's just Apple, that's not going to do me any good. They're going to have to accept Google Wallet, which I would imagine that
The follow suit.
they're going to follow suit and allow, allow at least Google Wallet, probably Samsung Wallet or something like that, or maybe it'll just be an app you can just go get that everybody will adhere to if you don't have Apple Wallet. So I imagine that's going to come, but it seems like that's going to take an enormous amount of time. As I said, I just came off of a vacation, and one of the things we were able to do on vacation is actually use a digital passport for the place, for the locale that we were going. And it was
Sure.
kind of cool, but I don't want to say it was their own app. It was an app that's just in the app store that I would imagine that multiple countries could use. But
Hmm.
I could see a situation where you got to use this app when you go here, and you got to use that app when you go there, and you got to use that app
Hmm.
when you go there, and you got to use this other app when you go here. And when you
Hmm.
come back, you can't use any of those apps because the United States is not doing that yet.
And then
So
not only that, right? It's not just for traveling. You can use it for any place that has to verify your age. So that's going to clubs, that's going to bars, that's going to any sort of adult event to where they have a age restriction. If they have an age restriction, then in theory, in ideal, you should just be able to hold your phone over the little thing that they ask you to put over, and then their information on their end is going to say this person's old enough to attend this event. It's not going to give my name, it's not going to give my social security number, but since it's in Apple Wallet or since it's in this app that everybody has agreed that we're going to use, I should be able to hold my phone up and it say, "Oh, this person is of age," and then that's it, right? That makes perfect sense. But again, it's got to be the front end and the back end. And the back end, it hasn't caught up. And I don't think it's going to catch up no time soon to where anybody will be able to accept a digital ID.
I think it's going to take years to get to where it's pervasive, in the same way that tap and pay is taking years to come out. If
Hmm.
you remember back in the day, Terrence, there were companies that would get the terminals that could do NFC, but they would disable it, and they literally would disable it. So
Hmm.
all you could do is swipe your card like a old school credit card.
Right.
And then once they allowed you to start doing the tap and pin or tap and pay, they disabled it. They said, no, we don't accept it on your phone. Now, I
Hmm.
remember, a couple of phones ago, Samsung used that magnetic secure transmission. So
Hmm.
didn't matter whether or not they accepted it or not. As long as you could swipe a card, you could use that. But that's no longer a thing for Samsung devices because now so many places actually use it. But when I think about this, it has taken years and years and years for just places where you can use a credit card. They now regularly accept, whether you're using Apple Pay or using Samsung Pay, using Google Pay or
Hmm.
what have you.
Hmm.
Most places, I would say, now do accept it. So I think it's going to kind of be the same thing. I mean, we're only talking about 5 states, which means that you can't really go anywhere or do anything without having your driver's license. And here's the part of it that this is not part of the story. This is just part of how I think about this. I would imagine that at some point you're going to be able to use this to show your ID to the police. If you get pulled over or something, and they say, "Show me your ID," you would be able to show this as your ID. Is there ever a time when I would want to put my phone in a position where a police officer could grab it? Because if a police officer grabs a phone from you or I, it's not like you or I are going to just go grab that phone back from them. That
Hmm.
is not a safe thing to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
So would I ever even want to be in a situation where I'm going to use my phone as my ID? I simply can't see that in the foreseeable future. I will always have that physical driver's license that I can hand to them and they can do whatever they want, but they don't have my phone. So
Hmm.
that's a thought for me. That's just one situation. That is just, in interactions with the police. I would not have a problem scanning QR codes if I'm trying to get
Well,
into a, Ticketmaster or something like that.
well, let me present it to you this way, right? We know, and there has been documented cases of police that pull up on black people, specifically black males, more reportedly, and have came to a person and said, "Hey, hands up, we need to see your hands." The dude's like, "All right, let me get my wallet." They get bullet holes in them, right? Think of like your traffic stop, right? You still got to reach in your pocket to get your phone. And I may be talking myself out of this because people have been shot up for reaching for their phone, and the police say, "Oh, that looked like a wallet or looked like a weapon." They were going for a weapon, right? I was thinking like in the sense of to where you are at a traffic stop and the police pulls up to your window and they say, "Hey, let me see your driver's license and ID." Instead of me reaching back in my back pocket where my wallet is, my phone is sitting up on the dashboard because I'm using that for navigation. I'm using that to listen to podcasts. The police can see that I'm reaching on my dash or on my windshield for my phone versus reaching back in my pocket that they can't necessarily see. So I'm kind of looking at it as it might be advantageous to show police that you are clearly about to unlock your phone or clearly about to fire up your digital ID versus me reaching in my pocket. But again, that ain't never stopped police from
Yeah,
from mistaking my
this
phone
is just
for
me.
no different than you. So
I'm not projecting this on anyone else. I don't give that kind of trust. So I do not drive in a car with my wallet in my pocket. It's just muscle memory at this point. As soon as I get in the car, I grab my wallet, I throw it in the center console. I've done this since I was 16. That's how I
right.
was trained to do it, and that's how I actually do it. I've got nephews that's when I was teaching them how to drive. That's how I trained them to do it. You grab your wallet before you get in the car. You put it in your center console. That way, there's never a situation where you are. Well, he was going to his. I thought he was getting a gun off a holster or something like that. You can get shot for going to your center console, but the chances of that happening may be a little bit less than if you are actually going into your, if you look like you feel like you're digging in your pocket. But because of that, there's really not a situation where I see myself just handing my phone over
Well,
to
see, that's the
someone.
thing. That's the thing. You have to my conceptually, I envision the same way they have those little square hockey pucks
Mhm.
at a point of sale, and you put your phone down on it when it's time to pay. It's the same thing. The police, instead of having let me see your phone, let me look at your ID, they have a little, probably the same size of their, what's that thing? The body cam,
Mhm.
a little hockey puck that you put your phone on. They take that and go back to their computer and their in their squad
Mhm.
car, and it transfers all your digital information that they can look up and see, who you are, where's your address, if you got any whatever your driver's record is, whatever criminal record, they can look all that up, but they don't necessarily have to take my phone on me just to then look at my phone and see my ID and then hand it back. It's more like a tap thing, and then that pushes the information to their car. They go in the car and look up all the information. That's what I'm
Oh,
thinking of
oh,
conceptually.
and I think that's how it will work also. My
Mhm.
concern is that as I am putting my phone over that NFC reader so it can get my
Mhm.
information, that my
Mhm.
phone is taken from me. And my
Really?
point is that you just snatched my phone out of my hand and you're a police officer with a gun and a taser. I am not just going to grab you and snatch my phone back. So I don't know that I
Yeah.
want to even put my phone in the situation where you could grab it from me.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, they could just reach in your car window
It's
and take
locked at
whatever.
that
Yeah.
point though. So
What?
this is a real concern. I am concerned
Uh,
about if I unlock my phone to get my digital
uh,
wallet,
but
they
in a
grab the
lot of
phone.
cases,
Now
you
they
don't
have
have
my
to.
phone.
In a lot of cases, you don't have to unlock your phone
Oh,
to
okay.
open
I
up the
wasn't
wallet.
aware of that.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can get
especially on iPhone.
okay.
iPhone, if your phone is locked, I would if that's your case, you lock the phone first and then pop up the digital ID. That's you can do that. I don't know about
Okay.
Android,
No, so
but you can do that on
actually you
iPhone.
can on Samsung Pay, you can open up Samsung Pay without actually unlocking your phone.
Mhm.
I don't know about Google Pay just because I don't use Google
Yeah,
Pay because I use Samsung Pay, but you can
yeah,
absolutely open up Samsung Pay without unlocking your phone.
yeah. And in an iPhone, your digital ID looks just like a credit card. There's no different screen. There's no
Okay.
different location you go to. There's no separate app. You just open up the wallet app. Same way you flip through your credit cards, you flip through your ID, and then you tap that on something. So I'm thinking for the police to make things simple on them too would be, yeah, we don't want to take nobody's property, unless we have a reason, just reason to. But again, I ain't never stopped cops from doing anything in the first place. So I
Yeah.
mean, we're back at
So
square one.
anyway, digital ID coming to California and Ohio. Well, it's already in California. You're just going to be able to add it to Apple Pay in California, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming the same thing in Ohio here in sometime in the not too distant future. So we'll come back and see how those things work out. Terrance, we have talked about this multiple times on the show about it might actually be a good idea to not allow children to have iPhones or smartphones specifically while they're in class. And it looks like in Great Britain, their most prestigious boarding school, the Eton College, that
Mhm.
they actually are taking it to a whole nother level. They say when you step foot on campus, we're going to take your SIM card out, put it in one
Mhm.
of these Nokia feature phones,
Mhm.
hand your phone back to your mama and them, and then let them take that back with them. They don't even want the phones on
And on the
campus
property.
anymore, on the
Yeah.
property. So this rule is going to go into place for first years coming in. So these are generally like 13, 14-year-olds. They
Mhm.
have to give their iPhone The article, the way that it was written in 9 to 5 Mac is it kind of joked with it, where it said that anyone going to the Eton, going to this boarding school, they would not be caught
Mhm.
dead with an Android device. So we know they're only talking about iPhones, which I thought was kind of funny, but because it's probably kind of true. But the other part of it is that they're saying we don't even want them here right now. Their rule is that you cannot have the phone while you're in class, so they must be
Mhm.
turned off while you're in class. They're saying now we don't even want you having the phone after class is over, and you can no longer have the device on campus.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that more school systems should, go to this type of situation?
Well, they're probably not gonna get that nuclear to where we're not even gonna have phones on campus, but my kids, I have 2 girls that are in high school, and per class, they have to put their phone in the little bins. Each teacher has their own different thing. Very few teachers allow them to have their phone out on their desk at all during class. Now, whether kids are sneaking in their pockets or sneaking in their, bags or purses, that's remain to be seen, but I can see more schools are starting to come to the realization that for some kids, not all kids, not most kids, but a lot of kids are being severely distracted by their phones. And that distraction is causing them, outside of social anxiety of being social on social media and all the trappings that come with social media, but that clearly you are doing that instead of studying, instead of, focusing on what the teacher's saying, whatever the case may be. So it's only natural that schools are going to start pushing back on this more. So this story that I found is actually in addition to some other stories that I've read, to where there are companies out there that are like creating like dumb phones, in the sense that it has a cell phone. It has a cell phone number. You can put a SIM in it, give you cell phone number. It'll give you like basic apps like the Maps app, like the app to what was the other one? Like Uber, like ordering an Uber or Lyft. You only get access to like some pertinent apps, right? There's one company that calls it Second Phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe a little bit larger than that Rabbit R1 device. And it kind of reminds me of that. It's got a basic screen. You can make phone calls. You can check your contacts. You call an Uber. You can uh, and that's about it. Right? And more people are starting to go to these phones to where they're creating some nice revenue for themselves, to where these companies, either that, I've seen some apps out there that I've been interested in trying out, to where it's almost like it doesn't put your phone in lockdown mode, but it has like a wallpaper that only gives you access to your phone number, your phone calls, text messages, Uber, Lyft, and that's it, right? Because there are, all that to say, people are warming up to the idea that these phones, social media, are super distractive, or distracting rather. And people are starting to warm up to the idea of, maybe I shouldn't have this phone in front of my face all day long. And schools are one of the first like organized groups that are like, we're taking a step further past that, and we're making you turn in your phones. They may not get as serious as Eden, to where they're not even allowing phones on the campus, but more and more the trend is starting to go towards schools are like, nah, we need to figure something else
Well,
out. These
there's a couple
phones
things
are
with it. They've done studies. They see, okay, here's what our numbers look like before smartphones existed. Here's what the numbers look like now that they do exist. And here's what they look like when we have gone to this test pilot school. We've taken smartphones away, and we've seen them trend back to the place that, they were before smartphones were a thing. That's a good place. So we're just going to ban them and see if we can get everybody back there.
Mhm.
Seems like it's a little more difficult to do here in the United States, but part of this article said that the United Nations actually commissioned a study where they went out in a survey. They went out, and it's like 1 in 4 countries in the world are essentially saying, nope, no smartphones in school anymore. So it'll be interesting to see if that's kind of the way we go. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because I know that you've played around with some of this stuff, is I've been out of the corporate world for a minute, but I do remember when I was there, we had IT folks who, if you wanted to use your phone, You had to subscribe to whatever system. You had to say, we're going to allow your phone to be managed if you wanted to put it on a network, and they could control what apps you can install. They can control what you can do. I believe that that's stuff you can do on an iPhone as well, but does it get
Well, it
granular enough
depends.
that you could keep someone from using their phone for anything other than making phone calls, checking text messages during the day?
You you can, but that's going to be hard if you are bringing your own device. That's the term is BYOD. Bring
Hmm.
your own device, right? If I with my own phone went to a company, or in this case a school, let's just say I'm a kid and I go to this school and I agree that um they can use the mobile device management system to actually add additional protections, filters, whatever the case may be. That's going to be harder than the company issuing, or the school in this case, issuing a phone to you and say, you as my student, here's the phone that you use to contact your family in case of emergency, to look up your schedule. They've got apps to where you can access your school schedule. You can have that app, no TikTok, no Instagram, no
Hmm.
Facebook. You can do that when you're issuing somebody a phone. It's a little bit harder when they're bringing their own phone and saying, hey, I give you access to do one or two or three things. Now you could, based on how you write the contract or the agreement, but it's harder when you're bringing your own phone and trying to
Hmm.
lock down somebody else's phone versus you issuing a phone and say, look, this is the phone. This is all you got. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it'd be much harder um, when somebody is giving you access to their own phone versus you issuing the phone that's quote unquote owned by the school.
Now, Eton College, I believe the article said that their tuition starts at £60,000 a
Mhm.
year. So, and they are actually providing the Nokia phones that they're giving to the
Right.
students. So I
And
just
that's the
wonder,
difference.
could you provide them? Now, you can't bring your iPhone, take your SIM out. We're going to give you an iPhone, but we're
Mhm.
going to lock your
Oh man,
iPhone all the way down.
you can lock it
And
all
and
down
then
to where
on the
they can't get
weekends, we
nothing.
open it up so you can use for
Or
so
after
many hours
school.
some of these other apps or something like that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's yeah, oh yeah, you can do that. There's no limit. If you are issuing somebody a phone, there's no limit to the restrictions, to the freedom that they do or don't have. Now, schools like Eaton, they're like, all right, we're gonna issue you a phone, but you very well could give them a smartphone that at 5 o'clock when school's out, everything lights back up. Your Facebook shows back up, your Instagram shows back up, all your things. But when you at 8 o'clock in the morning, when you walk into school, as soon as they geo fence the school, soon as you walk into that geo fence's boundaries, boom, all that stuff comes off. All you have access to is
Yeah.
the school calendar, and certain apps based on the school. So they could do it that way, but then that costs money, and schools don't make money like that. So that's where America's like, ah, man, we're out because they ain't got £60,000 per student per year to
Right.
do that. So
It was
they barely got
crazy.
pencils.
I didn't realize this, but the or I should say, Eton College is a public school.
Mhm.
So what the article said was that the reason you have in this, I mean, this is where a lot of the parliament and people in parliament, people in government, this is where they go to school. It's a boarding school, and £60,000 a year. But the reason they said that they call them public schools is because they were much less expensive to go to. And the public could afford them as compared to having your own private tutors come into your home and teach your children at the crib. So I was like, oh, that's how they did it in the UK back in the day. So
Mhm.
I just thought that was interesting because it's like, man, I can't comprehend how you would have a private school with $60,000 or not dollars, £60,000 per,
Which
per
is
student over
close.
here. So,
Pounds and dollars are pretty
so it's
close.
pretty
So
close, but that's a
yeah.
grip. That is, that
Mhm.
is a, that is a nice middle income, just
Mhm.
to send one of your children to school. And if you
Right.
got three, I mean, you'd be talking about, you got three, you're talking about 180 grand a year
Mhm.
just in school costs. So that's not happening here, but it is a trend. They have determined that cell phone usage amongst youngsters is not
Mhm.
great for their mental health, is not great for their learning environment. There's bullying. There's all these other things that they do with phones that, that, as I said, 1 in 4 countries have determined this is not good. So we're going to ban these things while you're at school. And like I said, Eton College has decided to go. We don't even want them on campus anymore. So you come here to go to school for the term and you no longer have a cell phone, or I should say, you no longer have a smartphone.
Right. And they can do that because you're on their property 24/7,
Hmm.
with the exception of you going to games or field trips, or when they give you, if they, I'm assuming they give you some sort of free time to go through the city or go home or whatever the case may be. They could do that because you're in their protection most of the day, if not 24/7, right?
Hmm.
When you are Americans, when you're at school for what, 4, 5, 6 hours, it's a little bit more tricky, but that goes back to freedom and democracy. There are some pitfalls that come with freedom, and you may not believe it. Now, of course, I'm not saying America needs to go back to communism or nothing like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you allow people to be free, they are free.
Right.
Ain't too much you can do after that and be like, all right, come back, give up a little bit more of that freedom. Not happening, Jack.
So just something that's a little bit more recent. I think this might have came out this past weekend or today even, but it's relatively recent. But the U.S. Department of Justice has won its antitrust lawsuit against Google, or technically it's against Alphabet, Google's parent company. And what they were saying was that Google was paying Apple primarily, but also Samsung to the tune of $26 billion to make
Mhm,
Google be the default search engine on those phones.
mhm,
And in a 286-page ruling, it was Judge Amit Mehta in Washington said that Alphabet Inc.'s units, $26 billion in payments, effectively blocked any other competitor from succeeding in the market. And if you think about it, Google is one of the few companies that has that kind of money that they could spend on making sure that you are right. So it probably makes sense that this ruling goes this way. I can't imagine that Apple is feeling great about it because that's going to be, money out of their pocket because they were getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $26 billion for, making their default app go to Google. But
Um, so I'm curious to get more understanding of this in Apple's case, right? Because right now I'm looking at my phone and I can go into the my Safari settings for the Safari browser, that is Apple's native browser, and I can go in and change the search engine whenever I want to between Google, Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and some new one called Ecosia. Um, I wonder how that plays into this settlement to where they saying Google has paid Apple $1 billion or however many billions or millions of dollars, $26 billion to for it to be the default. Is that just meaning without me doing anything, Google is the default
right.
search engine?
Yeah, you are always
Okay,
able to go change it to whatever you want, but
but the
they come up
default.
as the default. And what we have learned is that the default for most people is the
Uh-huh.
only thing that exists.
So let me ask this question: If that's not the case, then if I open up Safari, does in a perfect world, let me not say perfect world, in the way they want you to do it, right? If I open up Safari and I go to type something in the search engine, if if I haven't selected anything, what do they want what is the process, right? What is the step? Am I making sense?
I
Like
do. It's like, well, if this is a bad thing that Google pays $26 billion over, and it's not $26 billion a year. I want to make that
right,
that
right.
clear. It's been $26 billion since they've been doing this. That's what they've paid. I guess in the I guess once again, I don't want to use the perfect world, but I guess the way that the DOJ wants it is that you have to make a decision up front.
It's been so long since I've had an iPhone. I want to believe I made that decision the very first time I picked up an iPhone for the first time, and every subsequent phone, I it has remembered my settings per my iCloud, per my backup and restore. If I back up a phone, get a new phone, restore all the settings, it restores that default. So I cannot remember ever, and this is back to 2014 maybe. I can't remember having to make that selection. And if I did, then I only had to make it one time because every subsequent time after that,
Well,
it's remembered my
well,
settings.
here's the question: what is your default search engine?
What do you mean when you say default?
So when you
What
when you search,
it
who does it go to? Does it go to
it goes
Bing?
to Google. It goes to Google.
So if so, in your case, it wouldn't have mattered if it wouldn't have been the same anyway, because you selected it, but it was going to be that anyway as the default. So would it have
Right.
mattered in your case?
Well, I guess not, but I guess well now that makes sense because with Microsoft and getting burned with Internet Explorer back in the day. But yeah, I guess that does make sense. Just trying to figure out, in a they want you to make the selection every time you open. No, you can't
No,
make
not
the
every
selection
time. I
just
think
on the first time.
like I said, I didn't read the 286 pages, but I read two articles on this, and they both made it appear as though the problem that the Department of Justice has, and it
Hmm.
makes sense, it's a good argument, is that this company is paying so much money to Samsung and to Google, the primary two phone manufacturers in the world. They're paying so much money to them that no one else can get a fair shake. No one else can really compete, because you're not going to have DuckDuckGo say, "Oh, well, we'll give you $26 billion too." They're just not capable of doing that. I don't know that organization's ever generated that much money to give it all to
Right,
Apple to be the default.
right,
So
right.
they're saying that it's anti-competitive because you are using your market dominance
Hmm.
to basically bid up to the point to where no one can actively compete with you, and that's
Right.
where they're losing the law case. What the penalty is going to be, we don't know. What the end result will be is that my gut tells me they just will no longer be able to make them be the default. You'll have to go in, actively
You have to go
select
pick.
one. You'll have to pick
Mhm,
one that you want as the default.
mhm. I wonder if that is even after all the damage is done going forward. Let's just say, argument's sake, the DOJ is like, we don't care. It's every time going forward, you had to make somebody select. I wonder if it even matters anymore that most people now see Google as the default, the de facto, not default, the de facto
Yeah,
search
it's a
engine.
verb at this point. You've never
Right,
heard anybody say, "Go Bing that." What do you
right,
mean? You mean
right,
with a hammer? What do you explain to me what you mean? But if I say go Google something, you know
right,
exactly what I'm talking about. And we're
mhm,
talking about everyone
right,
knows, what Google means at this point.
right. So
More
the da
people
so
know
the
Google to search than it derives from Googleplex, one with 100 zeros behind it,
right.
which is what it was before it came out in the 90s. So
So has, Google effectively won, even though they have to stop doing it going forward? Have they already won the battle or won the war rather?
here's the thing on this. A couple of weeks ago, Chat GPT, they came out with their search,
Mhm,
and it doesn't matter. I went on vacation right after it came out. It doesn't matter if it's as good as Google, if it's if it's capable, if it passes as something that can effectively be used. Google should be shaking in their boots right now, because if right now the way we search is that we simply just go to Google for it. But if
mhm.
you have Chat GPT, that you have OpenAI
Search
and there's a
yep,
search GPT, and
mhm,
that becomes the way that people just search for stuff.
mhm,
um it's going to change things for Google. Google needs to win there, because they make all of their they make most of their money with AdWords. That's it is that advertising. Well, Search GPT right now has no ads in it. You just search in it and it just gives you links with citations, and
mhm.
there's no advertising. So all this might be for naught if the paradigm shifts to where we're no longer using search engines for
Search
search, if
engines
we start using
using AI
AI for search.
interfaces. Yeah.
So the DOJ doesn't really matter. It's like, well, we're not talking about what you're going to do. We're talking about what you did, and we're going to go ahead and fine you for that. So that's going to happen. But I don't know what the end game is for Google, because search as we know it could be going, as I said this second ago, it could be going through a paradigm shift to where we just don't search the same way.
I don't know. It's gonna take a minute.
Oh, it
It's
will.
gonna take a minute. Chat GPT and Search GPT, all that's cool and that's fancy and quote a lot of people are using it, but I wonder how many people a lot of people is compared to all the people that are currently using Google for
Mm-hmm.
search. Yeah, it's starting to have a presence, but I wonder how effective that presence is going to be versus the effectiveness of all these years and all these apparently billions of dollars that Google has spent to become number one in search.
So here's the
Is
question.
ChatGPT going to put up billions of dollars in the next 5 years?
Maybe.
I'm curious to see if
Because
that, because it's been Google for 20, 30
yeah,
years now.
but here's the thing. They don't have to beat Google tomorrow. They just have to take market share from Google, which is something
Mhm.
that no one has really effectively been able to do.
Right.
So if Search GPT can get 10% market share, that's billions of dollars out of Google's pocket that now goes to them if they eventually start putting ads in this. But the bigger question for me is that and we didn't even have this story in the rundown. I just saw this right before we came on. Was that Apple is getting ready to release iOS 18 and the new iPhone is going to come out. But when it comes out, it won't have all that new what Apple
Apple
intelligence that
Intelligence.
won't
Right.
exist in iOS 18. That's not going to come until October with iOS 18.1.
Right.
My question is, but when that comes out, will you be able to just hold your phone up, press a button, or do something, say, hey, keyword, and then ask it a question? And now where that used to go to Google, is that now going to Search GPT?
Well, so funny you bring that up, right? There is no default for if you search outside of Apple and Siri's limitations, right? Apple and Siri's limitations is strictly based on information it knows from you based on your device usage, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Mac, whatever the case may be, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
use, we'll call her Siri, right? For those so for those basic on-device my information queries, right? When it gets tricky is when you ask it a question like, "Hey, I'm going to a birthday party. What's the perfect mixed cocktail?" Right? When it gets to that point, and Siri's like, "Hey, I don't know nothing. I don't know enough about you, right? Pick which way you want to go." Right? Chat GPT is trying to angle to be like the first option, but you can, which is kind of ironically based on what we're talking about, you will have to select a default for your for Siri intelligence. When it leaves Siri, you'll have to choose between Gemini, Copilot, Chat GPT, something else, something else, something else, right? So the question is going forward, like this would be a perfect example or a perfect test case out the gate, square one. What do people choose? Do they choose Gemini, which is that's Android's Google's thing? Will they choose Copilot, which is Microsoft's thing? Will they choose ChatGPT, which is OpenAI? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you will have to choose, right? And then you'll probably even have to go into the settings and make that selection the same way we had to when you make the Google your default search engine. So your question that will be a good test when Apple Intelligence comes out and all of us iPhone users start playing around to find out, where I want to go for my queries. Do I want to stay within Apple's little ecosystem or do I want to venture out? And if I venture out, which one am I picking? So I would be interested to see what your question is after Apple Intelligence is launched and which popular I'm kind of Freudian slip. I said which popular chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
Which popular chat prompt will take over when Apple Intelligence is released onto all these millions of iPhones.
My gut tells me that it won't be the same percentage that Google has right now. So
No.
that in
Right.
itself is a bad thing, because as soon
Right.
as that happens, Google will make less money than they
Mhm.
make today, simply because you now have millions upon millions of people, all the folks who are going to update to the latest version of iOS, all the folks who get a new iPhone and they get these
Mhm.
updates. When they, I gotta make a choice. Oh, you know what? I've been hearing in the news about this GPT stuff. Let me select that. Because once you make the selection, if it
You don't
doesn't
switch.
suck,
Right.
there's no reason for you to go and change it again.
Mhm.
Why would you use Google? Why would you use Chrome over Netscape? Netscape was great, until Google showed it. Oh, maybe it's not as great. Maybe this is better. Internet Explorer at one point was awesome until it wasn't. And then, Firefox was great until it wasn't. So at some point, somebody does something that makes people say, oh, this is better. Let me stick here. And once that default is made and you get into doing it the way that you do it, it doesn't even matter if something else comes back and says, oh, well, we're better now. Most people don't switch like that. If you don't have a problem with the way you do something, you don't just go looking for better ways to do the thing. That is not how most people are wired. Some folks are going to be, they're going to want to go to maximum efficiency. But if Search GPT is working for you and that was the thing you selected and there's no reason for you to go select something else, then you'll just keep using that. And every time you do that, when you were before going to Google and now you're going here, that's just less money that Google potentially makes. So we'll have to see how that comes out. This is not a story that's going to go away.
All right.
So, man, we are, I'm looking here, we're kind of at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and close the show out. Before we do, though, we got to get some shout outs because we picked up a new patron over our little 1 week hiatus. And so I want to give a shout out to Carlene, who has become a patron and is supporting the show. One of the things that Patreon has done is they now allow actual people to become free subscribers or free patrons. They're on a free tier. That's something they didn't do before. So Carlene started off on a free tier and decided to upgrade to get the benefits of becoming, an actual paying patron. So she gets access to her Discord. She can listen to the live show, all that kind of good stuff. So once again, we want to thank and give our flowers to Carlene. And for anyone else who is interested in becoming a patron, head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And there's multiple tiers, as I said, over there. Any one of them gets you access to our live stream and our after party, something we are about to start here in about 2 minutes. So with that being said, and I want to say Tech Life Steph, but she's not here. So I got to go to Brother Tech. Tell folks I didn't get at you.
You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I'm at Robb Dunewood on all the things. We're also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So come holler at us however we holler. Till we meet again in a week's time. Peace.